Josh Taback here from Drawniversity, and I am answering some questions, or a question, from the Animator Island Q&A. A while back, someone named Sabina K asked a question about in-betweening, so I'm going to give a little tutorial on how to maintain size and shapes when you're in-betweening. 2D traditional hand-drawn, so all you dinosaurs out there, or archaeologists who want to do stuff like that, pay attention. She says, when I'm animating, the character gets smaller, even when all the keyframes are the same size. Somehow I manage to draw every next in-between smaller, and the result is my character growing and shrinking on screen. Any advice? So, I said, thanks for your question. Excuse me, a little Peter Brady action going there. Are you animating on paper or using software on the computer to draw? And I asked this question because there's basically the main technique you would use to fix this problem is what we call flipping your drawings. Not rolling your drawings. Well, actually, some people call it rolling, some people call it flipping. People call both the same thing. One type of flipping or rolling is when you hold your drawings in both hands and you flip them to see how the motion is. Another type of flipping is when you're drawing and your paper is on the peg holes and on your light table. You flip the drawings back and forth to see the motion right then while you're drawing. That's what I'm going to be talking about. So we're going to do a little virtual flipping on the computer, even though on the computer I guess it would be called toggling, but I'm going to refer to it as flipping. She says she usually animates using computer software. So then the next questions I asked her, what specific software are you using? And when you in-between, do you usually do so by onion skinning or by flipping? She says she uses TV Paint, which I haven't used, but I've looked it up. It looks like a great program, and I see a lot of the results from it are really nice. And she in-betweens by onion skinning. Now, what happens in this digital age when a lot of people are doing traditional animation and drawing on the computer, because there's so many little buttons to push and tools such as onion skinning, that it's that much easier to just flip a button, you see all your drawings in a consecutive order, and you just start filling in the blanks and doing your in-betweens. Technically that should work, but your brain doesn't really work that way. Animation is based on movement, and you're not really seeing anything move when you're doing onion skinning. You're just seeing a bunch of still drawings laying down on top of each other and a pattern. So part of the reason, which will become a little more evident the more I get into this tutorial, that someone's drawings might change size or not be as consistent is because you're not looking at the movement. You're just sort of filling in blanks where you see spaces that are blank. So I'm going to shut this window down because my computer runs a little slower while I'm recording and drawing. So I got a couple little drawings here. This fella threw this together before I started recording. Guy making a little motion like here. I assume that Sabina is animating a character. So I figured let me do something simple that would cover a lot of ground as to a bunch of different ways someone may be in-betweening. So we got this little guy going here. He's doing a pretty simple movement. Now what happens is, let's first, if you want to be technical about it, go old school. There's your first drawing. Drawing in blue there. There's your first drawing. And there's your second drawing. So we're going to add a third drawing in the middle. We're going to go 1A. So here, right now I am animating in Storyboard Pro. It's not necessarily an animating software, but it's actually really good to do so. Some things that it can't do as far as timing and final timing and separating your timing out for your drawings, but as far as actually just animating and getting poses down, it's a lot like your paper system, and I really enjoy it. I have a certain palette set up a certain way over here, as you can see. I'll do another tutorial on that someday. Right now, this is just about in-betweening. So we got our drawing 1A. There. I'm going to turn onion skin on. And then you see here you got your two drawings. Now what happens is when you start to kind of fill in the blanks, you got so much mess going on here, it's hard to see what's going on. Now, these two poses are extreme enough that the middle pose wouldn't necessarily be an in-between, it would pretty much be a breakdown, which is another main pose, but since it's not an extreme, it's a breakdown in the middle of the action. But for today's purposes, we're going to call it the in-between. Anyhow, so the first thing to do is when you've got any character, you want to set clear shorthand shapes. And what I mean by that is, you got your guy here. He looks pretty simple. And sometimes the simpler the character, the harder it actually is to in-between. Because you don't have any real landmarks to nail the features down. Sometimes your features may float around, and then also too shrink and grow. So what you want to do is, on another layer, take your character, whether it's with the model sheet or just the drawing you really like, that you really feel nails the character, and find your simple shapes. This guy here is pretty much a circle for the head. Make my point a little smaller here. And if any of you watching this want to know how I'm doing one technique or something or another technically, like if you see me using a tool you're not really sure how I'm doing that, please leave a comment on either Animator Island or JasonElrod or this video, and I'll be sure to answer that. So you find your key line, which is your center line. Try to make them pretty simple. Now here, even though it looks like this is just one shape here, this is a pretty big shape. The circle might be pretty, the sphere might be pretty big, but it's a sphere. And we all know when a circle or a sphere doesn't look round. We can see that easily. This shape here is a little more ambiguous and we might be off. So what helps is to add some landmarks or other structures. So if you add a shape for the chin like that, it can help you nail things down, because now you can see your eye picks up this space in between the circle and in between the top of the chin. Whereas before, this shape, this distance, you could get that wrong while you're moving them around. It's just that much more difficult. You could go even simpler also too. Let me back up for a moment. Finding where the eyes lie on the head is also very important. You can do things like, that this center line goes through the middle of the eyes. Some people like to have their center point so the eyes sit on that key line. Usually the center line of the face going north-south hits the bridge of the nose right here. You can see where it hits the bottom of the nose can be, that can change. So right now we'll do where his eyes sit on it, on that line. Now you could go even simpler than what I'm doing here. I shouldn't have done that. Let's see, bring it back up. You can go even simpler. Do this in purple. And take that circle and say that's pretty much going to remain the same. Well, let's make it this color, just so we're working on that for now. Then let's put back, shoot. I purposely copied it before to repaste it, and I copied and pasted something else. So let's put the chin back there. You can see on here where I made a little chin line earlier to describe where that shape is. So now, we could go even simpler and not worry about the arcs. You know, this arcs in, this arcs back like that. If you want to go super simple, just do some straight lines. It's a little messy there. Do some straight lines. Maybe I'll make this red so it's a little easier for you guys to see. And you can even cut it in half like that. This way you know that, let's say, later on when I draw this guy, I'm just going to, put him in another pose like this. You know that this center line splits the chin in half. So if you round this out, you know it's going to be even on both sides. Or actually, if you look at what I have here, it's not quite even. Just generalizing at the moment. But then you can take that into consideration, and now when you look at this guy here, you can see this shape that I'm coloring in right there. It's a very small sliver. So while you're drawing this shape here, when you go to put in the detail, it's just a small sliver of a chin. Anyway, that just to get a little bit of a head there. So turn that off. So let's get back to this. So if this is our shape here, and then this guy, we know it's going to be the same thing. So just to save a little time, I'm going to grab this circle again, sphere, get rid of some of this other stuff here, put it where I know it goes. Now sometimes I actually think this guy's head here is a little bit bigger than this drawing here. I made a point to make it the same, but when you get your keys, you can squash and stretch and things change. You can even see this eye here grows in size. That's okay. That's part of the character of the drawing. Sometimes it just happens in the animation. You make this eye bigger because you say, well, this eye's big. These are the same size almost. Then these should be too. Well, sometimes you do that and you lose the character you're drawing. That's why the keys are most important. Sometimes, hopefully, your supervisor would have made a point to make it that way. So here we got this sphere that I drew earlier. The key line has, moved a bit. Center line, and then the key line for the eyes I'm going to put according to my drawing. Now, originally, these drawings would have been roughed out with these things in mind, but if you're in-betweening, sometimes you're getting other people's drawings. Or you may have done the drawing so long ago, it's not fresh in your head. You're going back and in-betweening. You don't have to do this for every drawing. It's just good to do this for a couple to get your pace, to get your structure, if you haven't done this already. So now, let's go for the chin like we had before in the other drawing. And you can see when I flip the two, you see that move much clearer. It's a lot easier to move that than a bunch of lines and a bunch of lines moving around that your eye has to follow. Because your eye, your brain, they look at all these little shapes. You got the two eyes, you got the nose, you got the mouth, you got the eyebrows, you got the hair. Your eye's picking up all that. And while it's moving, your eye's saying, okay, everything's moving. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, the hair, everything's moving, everything's moving. But if you do this, and this is what your eye is looking at, your eye is, let me turn this off just for a moment, turn the heads off. your eye is just looking at these simple shapes. Very simple. And you could even go in and, if, like, to me, this is even a little much sometimes. So I'm going to lighten up the key line here so it doesn't distract my brain, because my brain's easily distracted. So here you go. Let's do the same thing with that one. That's a much easier shape to in between. So now we go back to this is going to be our in between page.